You know, we hear a lot about Europe's great industrial engine. The story goes that it's just evolving, right? Turning into a cleaner, more digital, high-tech future. But what if that's not the whole picture? Today we're diving into a really provocative argument that paints a much darker scene. One that isn't about evolution, but about a managed decline.
And there it is, right up front. This is the core claim. It's a bold, kind of unsettling statement. The idea isn't that industry is just fading away. It's that it's being actively dismantled. So let's unpack the evidence the source lays out to back up this very serious charge.
Okay, so how in the world did we get here? Well, to understand the argument, you first have to understand the really comforting story Europe told itself for decades. This story of a post-industrial paradise.
Here's the myth in a nutshell. The thinking was that Europe had basically graduated. It didn't need to be the world's workshop anymore. Nope, it was going to be the world's design studio, its financial hub, its regulatory body. You trade in the smokestacks for spreadsheets. It's a very clean, very sophisticated vision of the future.
But how do you make that vision a reality? Well, according to the source, it came down to this three-part strategy. Step 1, you ship the messy business of making stuff over to China. Step 2, you plug into Russia for cheap, plentiful energy to power your post-industrial lifestyle. And step 3, you build up a web of domestic regulations that, well, makes it kind of irrational to even try to produce things locally.
And you know what? For a long time, this looked like the absolute height of sophistication. European companies had great margins, consumer goods were cheap, everything seemed to be working just fine. But the argument here is that just beneath that polished surface, a really deep and dangerous fragility was being built right into the foundation of the European economy.
Which brings us to the first major piece of evidence in this story, what the source calls the energy kill switch. This is the moment that hidden fragility wasn't hidden anymore. It was exposed, basically overnight. The year was 2022. This is when that theoretical vulnerability became a catastrophic, very real problem. Europe's entire industrial model, which was built on the assumption of cheap outsourced energy, was just thrown into absolute chaos.
And this timeline just shows you the whiplash. Before 2022, German industry, the engine of all of Europe, was just humming along, powered by that cheap Russian gas. After the supply got cut, industrial energy prices didn't just go up, they went vertical. They shattered the business model for countless companies in an instant.
And the impact was immediate. You saw it hit the most energy-hungry sectors, the very bedrock of any industrial economy. We're talking about the absolute building blocks of modern life. Chemicals, steel, fertilizers, glass, aluminum. Suddenly, on the world stage, they just couldn't compete.
And if you need one single image to really capture the scale of this crisis, this is probably it. Look, BASF isn't just some company. It is the largest chemical producer on the planet. So when it starts shutting down operations in its home country of Germany, that's not just a business decision. As the source so powerfully puts it, it felt like reading an obituary for an entire industrial era.
So right now, this looks like a massive strategic blunder, a huge miscalculation. But this is where the argument takes its most provocative turn. What if? What if this wasn't a failure of the plan? What if this was the plan working exactly as it was designed to?
This is the crucial question, isn't it? Was all of this just an unforeseen disaster? Or was it somehow the intended outcome all along?
And here's that argument laid totally bare. The claim is that for a certain class of European policymakers, the goal was never really to be a production superpower. The goal was to be a regulatory superpower. And in that worldview, heavy industry is kind of dirty, it's old-fashioned, it's risky. The real future, the real power, is in setting the rules for everyone else, not in actually making the goods.
This table makes that alleged trade-off crystal clear. On the left, you see what was given up: actual industrial production, strategic independence, and economic resilience. And on the right, what was gained, at least on paper, things like lower domestic emissions, higher asset prices in finance and real estate, and, of course, tighter regulatory control over the economy.
This quote from the source really just boils the entire argument down into one powerful sentence. The charge here is that real-world power and sovereignty were essentially exchanged for something that looked good and felt comfortable, at least for a little while.
Okay, so if Europe willingly gave up its industrial power, you have to ask, where did that power go? It didn't just vanish. Our next section looks at who actually benefited from this silent power transfer.
So, the first clear winner, according to the source, is the United States.
And it's pretty wild when you think about it. At the exact same moment that Europe is de-industrializing, the US is doing the complete opposite. It's using its huge advantage in cheap domestic energy and massive subsidy programs like the Inflation Reduction Act to actively pull those very same European industrial giants across the Atlantic.
And winner number 2, China. But its approach is totally different. This is a story of state-engineered industrial dominance. As Europe backs away from key sectors, China is right there to soak up that production capacity, solidifying its control over everything from solar panels to electric car batteries.
The source uses this pretty cutting metaphor to describe Europe's new position in the world. It's no longer a primary producer. It's becoming a block of wealthy consumers, a beautiful, rich museum full of incredible history and culture, but one that's increasingly dependent on others for the actual material goods of the present.
And this brings us to our final section, a really sobering forecast for Europe, as the entire world seems to be entering a new, much more competitive era of, well, hard power. This chart lays out the potential consequences, and it is a sobering list. We're talking about a future of constant trade deficits, permanent vulnerability to energy price shocks, strategic dependence on other global powers, and all the social fallout that comes with a shrinking industrial base, like falling wages for the middle class and the political radicalization that can follow. And this slide, I think, really gets to the core mismatch. The argument is that Europe prioritized optics over output. It prioritized compliance with its own rules over competence in the real world. But reality is now demanding something very, very different: hard industrial capacity and a focus on material reality.
And that leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking quote. The argument isn't that European leaders had bad intentions. It's that they made a catastrophic miscalculation. They operated on the bad assumption that the industrial age was over. The source's final verdict? It wasn't over. It just moved somewhere else.